we're in verse 3. We went 3 weeks to cover 2 verses. Great. It's great. All right. And also remember the folks in New York. I didn't even know that happened last night till like 11. I mean, did you? So, that's got comment. It's got to where you can't walk down the street anymore. So, all right. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created out of nothing. Man cannot create; they can form. But the thing, what happens with man is that we can make stuff out of stuff that's already been made. You build a house, the wood's there, the wire's there, the nails are there, concrete and everything else. But we can make stuff, we can form stuff, but we cannot create something out of absolutely nothing. So that's what God did. I believe in the 7-day creation, or 6-day creation. 7-day he rested. That's how I believe. There's some folks that will believe the gap theory, and there's some folks that believe there is another theory, and I read about it today, that they say that mankind is millions of years old. We've been around for millions and millions of years. If that was the case, the population of the earth would be 1,000 times what it is right now. I believe we've been here around between 7 and 10,000, maybe 6 to 10,000. But in actuality, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter how long we've been here. God's been here longer. Amen. And he was here before Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Even according to John chapter 1, in the beginning God, the Word was here. What is amazing, it says, in the beginning God created. While he was creating, the Word was already here, the Word that saves people. So he was here the whole time. Without form, without void. Darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. The word moved in the Hebrew means to hover. So this earth that we have, complete darkness. If you want to look at this as, you can look at this as literal / symbolic. I believe it is literal, but you can also look at it as a symbolic that before man receives Christ, before he is a Christian, what is he walking in? Darkness. Who brings light to that person? Christ. Jesus Christ that brought light into the world. I believe it's in 1 John. Let me see if I can find it really quick. 1 John, it says, 1 John chapter 1 verse 5, then this is the message which you have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not have the truth in us. But if we walk in the light as he is the light, we have fellowship one with another. So Jesus Christ is the light, God is the light. And it says that he moved upon the face of the waters. The whole earth at this time was a ball of water. When you study Genesis chapter 1, basically when you're still dealing with the creation, you definitely, just like you do the scriptures, it is literal. We do not know, we cannot explain how this happened. We go on blind, we go on faith. You say, well, how did he put these stars and the planets in the sky? Well, no, he spoke them there. That's all you can say. They're all spoken in there. So really there's no need in going through a long list of what he has done and how he did this. We just know that he done it. But it says, and God said, and you'll notice it says, and God said, and God said, and God said. So all of this is spoken. Every bit of this is a spoken word. Jesus Christ even said, anything that proceeds from my mouth will not come into me void. Everything that Jesus speaks will come true. Everything that Jesus says he will do. And it says, and God said, just with his voice, Jesus Christ raised Lazarus from the grave. Lazarus come forth. So just with his voice, he can do anything he wants to. So, and it said, and Jesus said, let there be light. Now, this is not the sun. The sun does not come into a few more verses, which is going to be in verse, let me see if I can find it, verse 16. But this is not the sun as per se as light. This is a light. And God said, let there be light. Jesus Christ says, I am the what of the world. So what are we dealing with in creation? He has created the what? World. And God already in verse 3 is beginning to demonstrate His brightness or His light. And God said, let there be light. We have no idea how light is made. You know that? We can make a light bulb, but you know what we have to make a light bulb? The ingredients before it gets to be a light bulb. I don't know anyone that can walk out and go, I'm going to make light. Never seen. I've got a flashlight at home. I can make it light. Come on, that flashlight with batteries. But no one has ever been able to know what light is. We can't create it. It's impossible. Nobody even knows what light is made of. It's just there. Jesus Christ says, I am the light of the world. He says, let there be light. And all of a sudden, just like that, there was light. I couldn't go through without going through some things and what happens in space. I won't go over those in a little bit. If you don't like it, tough. I love it. I think it's awesome how big our God is and how people can say, this is what I don't understand. When I read over some of this stuff, I don't get evolution. I don't. I don't get the Big Bang Theory. That with everything that we have in our bodies, in our solar system, everything with the atom, neutrons, protons, all that cannot just happen. There is no such thing as chance. You know that? It's just by chance I'm here. No. We serve a sovereign God, right? Everything, there is no chance. There's no chance I'm going to walk up and punch Paul in the mouth. You know why? I'm going to pre-plan it. I'm just not going to say by chance I'm going to do that. There is no chance. Everything is pre-planned. God has everything laid out. Before the foundations of the earth, who was here? God. God is not sitting up there. Did you know that God is not sitting up there in heaven wringing His hands going, okay, what's going to happen next? Well, I've got to watch this. You know, people's going to watch Saturday night football, Alabama and LSU. Do you know that everybody has something in common during that game? No one knows what the final score is going to be. Okay. We can guess, we can think, but no one knows. There's only one person that knows absolutely everything, and that is God. And when you're looking at Genesis, especially Genesis chapter 1, you can also look at Job. I'll go there, you don't have to. When you're looking at Genesis chapter 1, and God said, let there, and God said, let there. When Job was arguing with God, and Job basically says in one verse, I would like for him to come down and answer some questions for me. I'm paraphrasing it. I can see if I can find that. And he says, after a while, that God comes out of a whirlwind in Job chapter 38. In Job chapter 38, 39, 40, is proof positive that God created the world. And Job starts arguing with God and wanting some questions. And God basically says in Job chapter 38, verse 4, where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. He's basically saying, all right, Job, before I answer these questions, then I want you to answer some questions. Where were you when I was laying the foundations of the earth? Where were you at? Do you know who was there? God and His angels. That's it. That's why I believe that we do not question God. We do, because it's human nature, but we are not supposed to question God, because God, we serve a kind of God that laid the foundations of the earth. Laid means to pre-plan, to have it already. Sherman doesn't go into the shop and say, I might make some cabinets, don't know what they're going to do, we're just going to throw everything together. He has blueprints and stuff laid out, what He's going to do. God laid out everything. God said, let there be light, and there was light. And this is what is amazing. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Can we do that? We cannot. We don't know how to make light, right? Don't know how to make darkness. We can turn off lights and make it dark, but in actuality, we don't know how to make darkness. So if we can't make light, we can't make darkness, how can we divide what we cannot make? Who's the only person that can do this? Now, does this sound like a Big Bang Theory to you? That two molecules got together and all of a sudden we got light and darkness. There's this, somebody said, I forgot who, an apologist said that if you give evolution a footstool in the Bible, he will soon take over the throne. You know, if you give one iota to evolution, then take this, chunk it. If you want to know how the earth was created, it's written in 31 verses. There you go. There's your explanation. But it says, and God selected, and He divided. How He divides, we do not know. There's no need in going into a deep theological discussion how God divides light, because we don't know. Secret things belong to God. When you get to heaven, you want to ask Him, go right ahead. You'll be up there for the rest of the zillion years, Him explaining how He's going to divide light. What is interesting is this. You remember, I hope you do, in Revelations, they said that there was no need of the sun because who was the light? God was the light. What is amazing is that this same light that we are talking about now is the same light that we're going to have in Revelations. See how everything makes full circle? This is not the sun again. This is a light from God. I believe if you look at this symbolic, this is the same light that dwells in the hearts of men that are saved. Okay? And God called the light day and the darkness night. In the evening and the morning were the first day. In one day, this is what God done. Formed the earth, formed light, formed darkness, divided it. That's a pretty good day's work. I can mow the yard in a day, and in 2 hours, I'm like, man, I'm exhausted. I'm going to take it now. But my God, the God that I serve, I don't believe Buddha could have done this. Mohammed, I just don't. That's why we serve an amazing God. And this is what is neat. The God that divided that light, guess where He lives at now? In the hearts of men. The Holy Spirit. We are a temple of God. Why do we limit, and I'm not talking about miracles, okay? Why do we limit His grace and His mercy and His awesomeness? I mean, we limit God. We put Him on a leash, or we think we do. We don't. That's what kind of God that's what kind of God we serve. This is what kind of God that I hope you guys serve. And God called the light day, darkness night, and the evening and morning, that was the first day. That's a lot of work in one day. Okay? Moving right along, and God said, just like that, nothing, no hammer, no nails, no screwdriver, no nothing. He is just speaking this. And this reminds me, go to Luke's, y'all don't have to. I say that all the time, you don't. Luke 7. Let me go to Luke 7, verse 1. When it's talking about God saying or God doing with His word. Luke chapter 7, this is the servants. This is a miracle of Jesus Christ. It says, now when He had ended all His sayings and the audience and the people, He entered into Capernaum. And there was a certain centurion servant who was dear unto him. And there was a certain centurion servant who was dear unto him, who was sick and ready to die. And when he had heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, or the religious elite, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus and besought him, instantly saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, he's built a synagogue. This is what is amazing. Remember, God said, let there. God said, let there. Jesus went unto them, and when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shalt enter under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say a word, and my servant will be healed. You know what Jesus Christ says unto him? In all of Israel, I've never seen nobody with this much faith. You know what it takes to believe Genesis chapter 1? Faith. That's what it takes. You can throw out the science, you can throw out all of the mathematicians and the scientists, and it's faith. It's blind. That's what we go on with Genesis. And the same God that spoke this is the same God, and He says, if you'll just say the word, He'll be healed. And Jesus Christ says, I say unto you, I have not found so great a faith, not in all Israel. You know Jesus Christ never said that about anybody. His disciples, even the Old Testament minor major prophets, John the Baptist, and Paul. The only person that Jesus Christ said had the greatest faith of anybody he had ever seen was that guy. And that's it. That's all of Israel. So what do we go on with Genesis chapter 1? Faith. That's how we interpret this. If you get into an argument with a Darwinist, and they says, well, explain yourself. Okay, I'm just going on faith. You know, in actuality, they're going to laugh at you. But, you know, we go on faith. And God said, let the firmament, which actually means space, in the midst of the water, let it divide the waters from the waters. Now, right now, the earth is a big giant blob of what? Water. Okay? So there is a space. That is what firmament means. It's a space. Or it means heavenly space. Not where Jesus lived, but when you walk outside that space. And God, these lights, I can't see hardly anything. And God made the firmament and divided the waters, which I'm fine now, and which were under the firmament from the waters which were above, and so it was. So, do you know that there is water above us right now?
Sure.
There's enough vapors and waters and dew and all of that they said if all of it was to fall to earth right now, that it would cover the entire earth in 3 feet of water. That water that's on it, he's divided it. Okay? How did he do it? I don't know. So that's the best answer I can give. And in verse 8, and he called it heaven in the evening and the morning. That was the second day. In 2 days, he's done more work than anybody in the world. In 2 days. Okay? Now he is dividing. He is dividing. All right? Third day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven, not where Jesus lives, under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. All right? Now you'll get into some discussion on this. And let the dry land appear, and it was so. This is some of the thinking. That the continents were not made until after the flood. And some people say, well, there was just one giant landmass at this time that was divided by water, that was surrounded by water.
That's what the scientists.
Okay.
Everything broke off. So.
Everything breaks off after there was a great earthquake, or after the flood when the waters receded. Some of it receded further than that. Okay. I wasn't there. Job, he even told Job, he said, if you can answer that, I'll do. I wasn't there. Okay? I've never met anybody that was there. They said, yeah, it was awesome, Chris. You should have seen it. I don't know. Was there one gigantic landmass? But he said that he gathered together unto one place. One place. So if there was one landmass at the time and everything else was water, or the continents was already divided, we don't know. But I do know that God did this. And if he wanted to do one landmass, he could. If he wanted to divide the continents, he could. There's no need in arguing, really, because God done this. And what should amaze us is that who cares if there's one land or it's the continents? What should amaze us is that God spoke this. I can speak to my kids to take out the garbage and put the commode seat down while I'm blue in the face. You know what? They hardly ever do it. But with God, he speaks. Just like that centurion said, just with one word you can speak it, he'll be healed. So we always go on faith. Where are we at? Verse 10. And God called the dry land earth, and earth in Hebrew means land, dry space, plants where things will grow. And the gathering together of the waters he called the seas. And God saw it, and guess what? It was good. Everything God's done is good, right?
Amen.
So, in verse 11, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, herb, yielding seed, and fruit trees, yielding fruit. What is those next 3 words? After his kind. All right. Do you know that when you plant a garden, there is something called... I had the word right in my head. Honeybees do this and bees. What? Pollinate. Whatever. Yeah. Do you know that that it takes opposites to make something? Mm-hmm. 2 men have never been able to produce a child. 2 women. If there is that word that says after his kind, That's why I don't agree with, you remember, y'all are too young. Y'all remember when that sheep was cloned? That was a lot. That to me, that was just odd. The sheep was cloned. I forgot what the sheep's name. That was like a great thing. I believe there's science that does some great things, and then I believe there is some science that tries to overlap what God has done.
Amen.
But we have the grass, we have the herb, everything was brought forth after its own kind upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw it and saw that it was good. And this was the third day. So this is what is interesting. When man is first put on the earth, he is living in I don't want to say jungle, but he's living in a garden. What we are going to be living in when this earth fades away is not going to be a garden. We're going to be living in a city. Whose builder and maker is who? God. God made the first earth. He's going to make the second earth. And the God that is making this is going to destroy it one day. This earth that we're sitting on, it's going to be gone. And it says in the evening, in the morning, it was the third day. And then God said, here it is, let there be lights in the firmament, which is space, of the heavens to divide the day from night. And let them be signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. That's where you get your fall. That's where you get to all of your seasons and things like that. And God, look at verse 15. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heavens to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. What is those? What's the light during the day? What's the light at night? If y'all got that wrong, I went home. All right, I want to tell you something interesting. And it says, he made the stars also. How many words is that? Do you know that there's 50 chapters dedicated to the temple in the Bible? If we start studying, you're sitting there going, dear God, please don't start studying the temple if it's going to be 50 chapters. In the Old Testament, there's 50 chapters dedicated to one structure. When you start dealing with the stars, there's 5 words. Where's God's priority at?
Temple.
Huh?
The temple.
The temple. He does it. To him, flinging stars up in there takes 5 words. But but with the temple, it's 50 chapters. But you got the sun, you got the moon, and he takes the stars and he throws them up there. How does he do it? I have no idea. But here we go. There's a star called Antares. This is how big God is. It could swallow 64 million of our suns. One star. And there are trillions in the universe. All right? Now, if we were to take a piece of paper, this is a paper test, the thickness of this paper, okay? If we were to take this distance from the sun to the earth to the sun, and we would measure it by the distance, let's say that the thickness of this paper
4,000.
is the distance of the sun, okay? If we're looking at the paper, it would take a distance of 71 feet of this paper, if we were measuring it by that. If we were going to measure it to the Milky Way, to the center of the Milky Way, we would have a stack of paper 310 miles high. If we were going to measure it according to the thickness of this paper, to the edge of the known universe, we would have a paper stack of 31 million miles high. Do we serve a tiny little small God? All right. Where we're sitting at on this globe, the earth travels on its axis at 1,000 miles per hour. It moves around the sun at 64,000 miles per hour. It moves in orbit around our galaxy at 410,000 miles per hour. And it travels through space around the sun, around the galaxy at 1,350,000 miles per hour. That right there. You know how God made it? spoke it. Each year, that blob travels 20,936,400,000 miles across empty space. And that's one planet. We serve a gigantic, huge, awesome God, and we have no idea. See if we got anything else. Now, we'll get to that when we start looking at man. Okay, so he takes the sun, he takes the moon, and he takes these. That's one star that can swallow 64 million suns. That's one. And he let, verse 15, and let them be the lights in the firmament of heaven to give lights upon the earth, and it was so. And God, let me go to verse 17, I think I went back. And God, verse 17, set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. He set them, the sun, that if you can't even stare at it during the eclipse or you'll go blind. He put this himself in there, in heaven, in the sky for us to you know what's amazing? If we were, I think 10 feet tilted off that axis, away from the sun, we'd freeze to death. If we were tilted 10 feet closer to the sun, we'd burn up. Everything God does, not only is it good, but it is also perfect. So you can take the Big Bang Theory and it's just hogwash. It doesn't happen like that. Verse 18, and to rule over the day and to rule over the night and to divide the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. In the evening and the morning was the fourth day. The fourth day, he makes planets, stars, everything else in one day. That absolutely amazes me that God can do that. And he's been, this is who we serve. When someone asks, how you feeling? You know, we have a tendency going, back hurts, my neck hurts, my feet hurts. We serve a God that is awesome. I mean, we get excited. Listen, when the new one of these comes out next year, you know what we're going to be doing? They had an iPhone, is it 12 now? 10? How much is it? $900? $1,000. That is the greatest thing in the world. You know it. New iPhone's $1,000. Great. It's awesome, man. Let's worship the iPhone. My God made the universe in one day. I had iPhone. Bill Gates beat that. All right? Do better than that. You can tell who's got money. They know how much the new iPhone costs. And it says, and God said, look at verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth, in the firmament of heaven. So you have your fish. And I told you, I may have told you this, some of you may not have been in here, and they done that study several years ago to determine how much sea life was in the ocean. They spent, I forgot where it was at. It was in New Zealand or something. They paid billions to find out in our oceans how much sea life was there. Just a ballpark figure. After billions of dollars were spent, honest to God, their answer was, we have no idea. Really?
We could have done it for half.
Yeah, give me $10 and I could have, give me a fishing pole, some worms, I'll catch as many as I can out. But God brought forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and fowls that fly above the earth, and open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and living creatures that moveth with the waters brought forth abundantly. And the whales after their what? Kind. And every winged fowl after his kind, God saw that it was good. That is mind-boggling. And God blessed them. That is what is neat. God blessed them, saying, now listen, don't get into the thing that animal is over God. God blessed them. Okay? Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas. Let fowl multiply the earth. In the evening and the morning or the fifth day. Do you know that we are finding every day a new species of something we didn't know existed? Every day there is, but what's weird, there's species dying out every day, but yet we find new species every day that we never knew was created. God did. He created all of it. Everything in the ocean, everything on the land, everything that flies, God created it. And God said, we'll wind up early tonight. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle, creeping things, and beasts of the earth after his kind, and it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and God saw that it was good. That was the sixth day, or the fifth day. Look again, verse 26. And God said, this is when it gets antsy. He does all the earth in 6 days. All right? Not billions of years. 6 days. He speaks everything. And God said, let us. Who is the us?
Him and Jesus.
Him and Jesus.
God and Jesus. God and the Son.
Think to it, him, Jesus,
Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit. You know, they say, well, it's the angels. We're not made in the image of angels. If you would look what an angel or a cherub looks like in the scriptures, we don't have, 6 wings. And we can't fly. Okay? But God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. That is, although God is awesome, he decided not to make animals in his image. He decided to make Chris Watkins in his image. Did you know that? Paul Cofield in his image. How special we are to God. I think my family loves me more than anything. But they do not love me a fraction of what God loves us.
Amen.
You know. And God said, let us make man. Did he have to do this?
No.
No. But we studied a couple of weeks ago, why did he do this? So we could praise him. And he says, if you don't, guess what's going to cry out? The rocks. God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have domain over the fish, the sea, the fowls of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creepeth. And this is what is amazing to me. Now, chapter 2 is, before we get into chapter 2, we want tonight. What chapter 2 is a little bit more detail of what God does in chapter 1. He doesn't do the same thing twice. He just goes in a little bit more detail. I want to make sure I mention that. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female, created them. Just like that. Let me read this. All material is made of atoms, which have 3 elements, protons and neutrons, which is the center of the atom, and then a nucleus and electrons, which circle. On the top of a ballpoint pen, who's got a ballpoint pen? On the top of a ballpoint pen, if all the atoms that was found on top of that ballpoint pen were carried by an army marching 4 abreast, 1 atom to each person, it would take 20,000 years for that to pass by us. That's how complex. Now, are you going to say that there was a mud hole one time, and then it formed, and then this formed?
No.
All right. So I asked Crystal and Sarah this, and they just kind of shrugged their shoulders. There are 75 trillion cells in a man. Trillion cells. And each cell has 200 trillion atoms. How big, how complex are we? Very. She studied it. We're very. But God, guess what? Formed this out of dust. Not dirt, but the dust that comes off the dirt. How important are we, to God? He done this and he spoke it. And He thought so much of us. That is such an understatement. That He made us like Jesus, like Him. We're going to make them just like us. And God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and over every living creature that moveth upon the earth. Have I skipped some? No. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth. They are not meat eaters yet. We will go into this in greater detail in chapter 2, I promise. I have given you and I want to leave you with this, every herb bearing seed which upon the face of the earth. We think that they are limited to just a small section. They can go wherever they want to as long as there's dry land. Okay? Because He says, over the face of A-L-L. That means all of this. Okay? Over the face of the earth. And every tree in which is the fruit of the tree yielded seed, to you it shall be for meat. At first, we were vegetarians. Okay? That the meat eating comes after the ark. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. Do you know what lions and tigers used to eat? Grass. Fruit. Do you know what they eat now? Meat. When we went down to that Tigers for Tomorrow, I did not see a tiger sitting there eating an apple. Before, things were different. Okay? Now, every green herb for meat, and it was so. This is what is great. And God saw everything that He made in 6 days. Here's what we're going to do. Starting Monday through Saturday, we're going to make the universe, galaxies, planets, and earth. We're going to make light, darkness, animals, humans, everything. We're going to start Monday, and we're going to get together Saturday to see how things are going. But God did.
Yes, He did.
He did. And it says, and God saw everything that He made, even us, was good. And behold, it was what? It was not just good. It was what, Paul? Very good. In the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
That's the first time He said very good.
Very first time.
Everything else is good.
Everything else was great until He's saying what?
Completed.
Completed.
Yeah.
Everything else was final. Do you know when everything is going to be very good again? When sin's gone. Because do you know what's not was not there at this time in chapter 1? Sin. But when we get to heaven, Ross, after that 1,000 years and sin's gone, the beast, false prophet, all that's thrown into the lake of fire, we have a new heaven and new earth. It's going to be, guess what? Very good again. Dear Heavenly Father, we love You and we thank You. Thank You, dear God, for creating us in Your image. Dear God, help us not to worship the things that You created. But help us, dear God, to worship the Creator. Dear God, help us not to put limits on You. Dear God, help us to understand that the same God, which is You that made all this, now dwells inside of us. And help us to remember, dear God, everything we do, everything we say, where we go, You're with us. God, we ask that You be at the prayer request that we've heard. And help, dear God, that this group that comes so faithfully on Wednesday nights, dear God, that even myself will realize just how great You are. We love You and we thank You. In Your name we pray.